Hello everyone, my name is Adhyasha Samal, and in this video I'm going to explain about one of the most traditional and well-structured software development model known as the waterfall model. So waterfall model is called so because its phases flows step by step in downward direction. So as you can see over here, as the diagram mentioned over here, you can see each steps has been indicated with a downward flow of motion or the flow of diagram. So it just indicate replicate just like a waterfall. So hence this model has been named as a waterfall model. So each phase must be completed before moving to the next one. So there is no overlapping in between the step. So let us know how this all phases work and what are the requirements to fulfill this each phases. So first starting with the first and foremost phase known as the requirement analysis phase. So in case of the requirement analysis phase, we need to know that this is the most critical stage of the waterfall model. So in this phase, development team actually interacts with the client or stakeholders to clearly understand what the system is expected to do. So before you are approaching for any kind of project, we need to know what are the requirement. Without knowing the requirement, we cannot move further, right? So here the client or the stakeholder need to explain their requirement to the project manager so that they will know what are the requirement and list is down. So in this what gonna happen is all the functional and the non-functional requirements are gathered, analyzed and documented properly. So once the documentation is done, this documentation will act as a foundation for the entire project. So if requirements are misunderstood in this kind of state, it can affect all other phases coming forward. So this mark as a very major and critical stage among all the waterfall model. That's why it is known as the requirement analysis phase. So we can understand with the help of an example like student college student management system. So in the college student management system, generally what are the requirements? The system should be able to store student data such as the name, roll number, department year. Also the faculty should be able to view and update the student records. Then admin should generate reports like attendance and mark. So all these requirements are collected, analyzed and documented clearly before moving on to the next page. So by chance if the faculty stage is missed, so that means there is no importance of having a college student management system, right? So hence requirement analysis plays a very critical role. Moving on to the next phase known as your system design. So in case of what happened once your requirement analysis phase is fulfilled, we move to the system design phase. So before that, we need to do what? We need to finalize this. So once it is finalized, then only we can move to the system design. So here in the system design, what happened? Overall architecture of the system should be planned. So this phase will be defined in terms of your system architecture, database design, hardware and software requirements. You will also have your data flow and interfaces. In simple word, if I am saying this phase answer the question like how will the system be built. So before going on to the, if you are a computer application student, you must be knowing that before writing a set of code, you first need to know the pseudo pseudocode, then you move to the algorithms. So then you go for the flow charts, then you start developing your code. Similarly, what happened in this, we ask ourselves one question like how will the system be built? So the system builds depending on what? System architecture, database design, hardware and software requirement. Also we include what? Data flow and interfaces. So if I take an example of the same college student database management system, so in that the design decision should be what? Your database table for the student, faculty, courses and attendance, user interface for admin and faculty as well as the student, login authentication and role-based accesses. So this phase will focuses on how the system will work internally, right? So once this system is been fulfilled or finalized, we move to the third and the third step of the phase waterfall model, known as our implementation. So as the name suggests, implementation is known for your coding phase. It is mainly known for what? It is known for the coding phase. So once I have an architecture diagram, I know how the data need to be flowed and interact with each other module. So in this state, what will happen? The developer will start writing actual source of code based on the design specification we have done on the previous phase. So each module is developed separately and later they have been integrated. Since everything is already planned in earlier stage, the coding process becomes structured and systematic. So that's what we need, right? When we move to the next and next, we don't want any chance of error. So in order to avoid that, we follow the step and we and all the steps should be followed before moving on to the implementation stage should be followed using your system design architecture. So once the design specification is done, we can be more structured and systematic while planning a source of code. Example, writing code to add your add and update or delete student records in the student management system, or developing login modules for admin and faculty, connecting the database with application. So each module is coded based on the approved design. Okay, so depending on what actually your client requirement is, we need to do the implementation. So currently I'm giving you a constant example of your college student management database management system. So henceforward I just gave you one brief that in this part implementation will show how to add, update, delete student record, or you are carrying out the CRUD operation, login module, how it has been made, how you can connect the database with the application. So those will be done in case of your implementation part. Once the implementation part is done, we are moving into the fourth module, which is, or the fourth phase, known as your testing. After implementation, software enters the testing phase. So the testing phase is one of the major phase which lie between the implementation and deployment, because without testing a any kind of module or a phase, you cannot clarify that it is the project or the model has been built successfully. So in order to do that, here the developed system is tested through the identified errors. Like what could be the possible errors? So they have to identify and they have to test the system, and also for your bugs and any mismatch with the requirement happen, you once you need to find it out, or when you have to test it out, then you have to fix it. So in this case, what happened? The developed system is tested thoroughly, you can say, to identify error, bugs, or mismatches with the requirements. So different type of testing, such as unit testing, integration testing, system testing, are performed to ensure the software works correctly and meet the expected quality standards. So there are multiple type of testing depend on what actually the developer needed in order as per the requirement by given by the client. So on basis of that, the testings has been done. So the testings are also of very different types. So here we are not going depth into that those kind of testing, but for the fourth phase, what we know that waterfall model does, it we have the developer has to thoroughly identify the error, bugs, and any mismatches happening with the requirement. They need to analyze before moving on to the next stage. So example, in if I'm taking the same example of your college student management system, checking whether student details are saved correctly or not, verifying login credential for different users, whether it is getting accepted. So testing reports are generating, or any errors or missing data has been found, or any kind of bugs are there, we have to fix in this testing stage. Once everything is verified and rematched with the requirement analysis, so we move to the next phase, known as your deployment. So once testing is successfully completed, the software is moved to the deployment phase. So in this stage, the application is delivered to the customer obviously, or installed in the real world environment. The system becomes available for the actual users by the end users. So example, in the student management system, we have to install in the college servers, where admin and faculties will be given your login access, or given the login access, and the system is officially made available for the daily use. That's when the client experience the environment made by us. So hence, before the product has been delivered to the client, we need to be very careful and very vigilant in case of our testing. So once the testing is fully satisfied, then we move to the deployment, where we integrating or installing it in the client server or in the real world environment. So the last and the foremost thing is, once we have installed in the client servers or the real world environment, still we may have to make any changes, right? Example, the client may have that suddenly we have we made a student database system, but now what is happening, student can view their result, we can view their marks, we can enter it, we can check over their attendance, but also you want to add that student needs to pay the examination fee. In those kind of update or the things which comes later becomes your maintenance. So once we deploy it, we need to provide the maintenance facility to the client. So the final phase of this waterfall model is your maintenance. Even after development, the software may require any kind of update, bug fixes, or enhancement based on the user feedback or changing requirements. So the maintenance will do what? Maintenance ensure that the system continue to function effectively over the time. So same example, if I'm continuing, so it will check whether any kind of extra bugs are there or not. So fixing the bugs reported by the users. Once the client started using, they will realize that they have made a mistake on the requirement, or they want to add any extra features. So in that way, we can fix the bugs. You can add new features like I said, online fee payment. Then updating the system with new academic year. So each in academic year, the student year changes. If I'm talking about a college student, semester changes. So everything need to be updated, right? So the maintenance phase ensure what it talks about your long term reliability. Okay, it talks about your long term reliability of the software. So to summarize the waterfall model, I can say that it follows a linear and sequential order or the approach. Okay, you can see that as we are going down the model, so once we come to the maintenance model, we are not supposed to go back to the previous phase. So hence it is also considered as a linear and sequential approach. So where each phase depends on the completion of the previous one. So it is easy to understand, simple to manage and work based for the project, where the requirements are clearly defined and unlikely to change. Why I am saying unlikely to change means, when example, its college student database system is a very used to system every school colleges nowadays having. So when they're already having it, they know what are the requirements they are having it. So it's a very clear. So when the requirements are small, not too complicated and very way forward, that's when we as a developer, a person will prefer a waterfall model approach. So thank you. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. So this is Adyasha Saman signing off for today.